Hello, everyone. Happy Wellness Wednesday and also happy full moon in Capricorn today. I am really excited. I have my good friend Issac here with me, Issac Boose, and I want to share with you all. But before I do, I had to read this because I thought it was really funny what Geek Hillbilly. Geek Hillbilly, Issac and I didn't know who Avery Brooks was, so we had to look him up. And Issac said, "Okay, I'll take that." So yes, very nice. And so how I met Issac, gosh, that was a year ago, wasn't it, Issac, when we took that
It
class?
was. It
Wow.
doesn't seem like that long, but it was. It was about a year ago.
Time goes by very quickly. We took an intuitive development, psychic development class with Debbie Freebird Spirit and Intuitive View Kim. And yeah, we met during class and kept in touch since then. And he is just a beautiful soul and very wise, which I love. He has a lot of knowledge and input. And the thing I like about that, Issac, is that you just you have a different spin on things. And I like how you come kind of out like, some of us will be over here and then you just come out of this side and you're like, and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. Look at it that way.
Thank you.
What's this? Geek Hillbilly says Brooks also played Hawk on the series Spencer for Hire. Oh yeah, I remember that show. I didn't really watch it, but I remember that show. So Issac, I'm gonna let people, because when I was prepping and saying, yes, I have a guest for Wellness Wednesday, Issac Boose is coming on, I said, well, he's a therapist and he has all these titles. Because I couldn't remember everything. So I'm going to go ahead and let you share with everyone who you are, what you do. Okay, I got 3 for you starting out the gate. Okay. Who you are, what you do, and what got you into spirituality. Where did your spiritual journey start?
Okay. I'm a licensed professional counselor and supervisor of counselors. Which just simply means I can help train a counselor. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I'm also a certified advanced alcohol and drug counselor. That's where I got most of my training.
Yeah.
And my spiritual journey probably began. It was probably always there. I just didn't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember like I remember I used to like to get good grades. Okay, so if I didn't know a question, I remember I would be able to sit there but I would tell myself, oh, I remembered it, but I would just hear it so clearly. So I'm thinking spirit was always speaking to me. And go speed ahead. When I was an adult and I was working as a therapist, I was reading a lot of books. And I remember this one while when Oprah was really popular with her show. Mm-hmm. And I was reading Zukov. And when I first read his book, Seed of the Soul, it was like, to be honest with you, it's like what a second grade teacher would say about a small child. If they, I heard a teacher say one time, one teacher said, oh, he reads well. She said, no, he calls words well, which means he didn't understand what he was reading. So I read it and it was like I just knew some information. I went back a year later and read it and I was like, oh, this makes sense now. And so that was probably back in the 90s, early 90s.
Okay. All right.
My journey. And it's something that I just always believed. It was like, it wasn't, if you know how you would hear people, well, when I was growing up, I would hear people say, oh, they're dabbling in voodoo and stuff like that.
Yes.
I didn't think it was an issue. I was like, just eyes wide open, like wanting to hear more. But people were saying it was bad, but I never really listened to any. If I would, let's say, people, I was never easily persuaded about a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so I don't think I've ever asked you this. What was it? Was it like a trigger or something that made you want to take the class, the intuitive psychic development class, or was it more, what pushed you into that to like, oh, I want to take a class now?
I've taken a lot of different classes, but it's like when I'm around other individuals who are spiritual, I pick up more. It's almost like there's a certain energy there.
Right.
That sort of fuels me. And it makes me feel better when I can connect with people who are like-minded. That's what really helps me. I've taken a lot of different classes over the years, and one class that I took, and since we're talking about empaths, was a few years ago. Dates run together for me. It's like I may think it happened 2 years ago, a year ago. It may have been 6. But I took a class with Rosetree. I don't know if anybody know who she is. She talks a lot about empaths, and this is when we were still traveling, going to classes, and it wasn't like over Zoom or over online, and it was really good. It was like she taught a lot. I read her books, and I learned a lot about myself. It's like, I think the journey of life is like learning about yourself, how you react, how you behave. It's like, I've often said, I can learn 1,000 things about everybody. I can collect volumes on another person, but it won't help me at all on my journey.
Wow.
That is so true. It will not help you.
Right.
It will not help you.
Wow. So what was it that made you want to get into therapy? And then from there, we'll go ahead and start talking about why you chose this topic for tonight.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I was reading. Like I said, I was reading Zukov, and actually, it was like all of these things fell in line. It was like doors were opening. I actually worked 10 years. I was in the Air Force. Got out of the Air Force after one enlistment. Worked at J.C. Penney for 10 years. And I'm like working there, and there's this lady in the catalog department. And we would talk, and her husband was a dean at the School of Educational Psychology. And I said, oh, my initial major was social sciences, but I changed it because I knew I was getting out of the Air Force. So I went into business. She said, you should talk to my husband and, maybe take some classes. I was like, okay, but I never did. So one day he was in the store, and we started talking, conversating, and he said, why don't you come over and talk to me? And I was like, okay, I'll do that. But then I was trying to weasel out of it because I believe spirit puts people in your life. And I was like, well, I really want to, but right now, don't think I'll be able to afford it. He was like, oh, come on, we'll figure something out. It's like I had no excuse. So I go over, talk to him on campus, and started the program, educational psychology. Loved it. Loved the counseling part. And actually, Sonia, it was like being an empath. Oh, well, this will help other people who are empaths. I'm working in a department store. I'm managing the men's department and women accessories. So hated women accessories. And I did children. So I learned, one of my trainers, she was like, Issac, look at this. This is in the children's department, baby's clothes. She was like, this is so cute. And I'm just standing there looking at her, and she runs to the next new thing. She says, this is so cute. And she says, Issac, you're going to have to learn what cute is. So I did learn what cute was. But anyway, it's like these things just kept opening up for me. It wasn't like I was trying to make it happen. And the counseling part was, like I was about to say, I was counseling people in the, talking to people in the store. I mean, like, people would come up to me, tell me their life story. And I really didn't have to say anything, but it's that empath thing. If a person is in your energy field, in your aura, they feel healing energy. And they would say, thank you. And they just seemed like they were doing okay. One lady, she was like, I believe she was having a panic attack. She told me all about her stuff. I set her down in my office. She wanted to call her therapist. She talks to her therapist and she's saying, and this is when I just started in my program. She says, there's this nice man and he's counseling me. And I'm like, no.
You're like, don't get me in trouble.
Right. I'm not counseling you. That's not what we're doing here. But that's what I would notice. This is the sort of thing that happens to people who are empaths.
Yeah, the people are saying that. Flowing said, yes, me too. People like to share with me.
Yes.
And we got a couple of thank yous for you too. Constance says, thank you for this topic. It's much needed. And Tracy says, so much healing has to happen. So many for so many now. Great conversation to have.
Yes. Yeah, because what I would say to you, Sonia, is when I was younger, I thought I was like a nervous type person. I hear a lot of people, and especially a lot of young people, they'll say that they've got anxiety. And I thought that I was afraid of speaking up or saying what I needed to say, or being assertive. But it was like, when you start to realize that you're picking up on the feelings of the people that are around you, it's like it's freeing. But what happens with most of the time with people who are empaths, they think the feelings are theirs, and they just like, they get really anxious and they don't want to feel, and they'll run from feeling, they'll isolate. But that's another thing. People who are usually empaths, they need time alone to re-energize.
Oh yeah.
and sometimes you'll have parents who'll say, oh, you need friends, you need to be with a group. There are some people who they are energized if they are in a large group. People who are empaths, it just drains their energy. Now you can learn to just like go out and turn it on when you need to. But when you walk away from that crowd, usually you just feel drained.
Yeah.
And you have to be to yourself to re-energize.
It's so true. It is so true. This had me cracking up. Where is it? Constance says, that's why they call it retail therapy. So you were in the right place.
Right. It is. It truly was.
Yeah, and Seascape makes friends as well in the grocery store. People just start chatting with. Isn't that always funny where people, and that's how you can tell too exactly what you're saying. I've had people that just come up and they've told me their life story. I'm just like, don't really need to know all that, but okay.
Without knowing, they are sensing your aura. And Rosetree says, a person who is an empath can be walking through a mall, and it's almost like you're in it. If you haven't learned to contain your energy, you'll just like swoop out and just like engulf somebody, and you know what's going on with them. And it's like it's going on like that. But there's this aura around the empath that people want to get into that energy field, and they start to feel better.
Wonderful. It's so what made you feel like, when you're talking mental health and self-care for empaths, what made you come up with this to share with us all today? And everyone, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up while you're here. And I also want to add, if you have a question for Isaac, please feel free to put it in the chat.
Yes, because this is what I would say to you. Usually when I'm talking, I have a lot of information, but I don't always share it because usually I need something to trigger that information.
Mm-hmm.
So the therapy and the empath, what was going on is because I'm in private practice and I'm talking to a lot of people, and they're saying stuff like they have anxiety, or they feel like people are running over them. But this would be an example, Sonia, is you have a person who people come, they may have friends, family, who always borrow money, but they say, but they know they don't have money to lend, but they will lend it anyway. And in their mind, when they're handing it over or before the person gets it, they're thinking they want to borrow money. I know they want to borrow money. Then they ask for it, and then they walk away. You walk away like a robot and you give it to them, because usually people who are empath, they have a hard time saying no. My recommendation for a person who is an empath, because empaths want to help, they want to heal. My recommendation is learn how to say no in your own way. Because a person who is an empath, if you go out there and you tell them no, you might as well tell them to take their lawn chair, sink to the bottom of the pool, and take some deep breaths. Because it sounds that crazy to them. It's like, I can't do that, because they're feeling how that person is going to feel. It's almost like they already knew it. But if you may have to learn to say, I really want to help you, but I'm not going to be able to. And that's a way of being honest with yourself and that person. And usually they'll leave you alone. They just go on to the next person.
Yeah. Or you can get my no button that I have if you can't say it yourself.
Yeah.
I love that button. So the patients you work with, do they know that they're empaths?
Some of them, they give me clues by saying things like that I don't know why I keep letting people run over me. I got so much anxiety. They will give me a clue, and I will ask them questions, and they just think that, we sort of make that connection. And some of them, this is the wonderful thing. Some people that I work with, they are from the spiritual community. And if I say something, they really pick up on it. Say, for instance, if I got a person who they can't say no. In regular therapy, we would say, oh, that's a codependent trait. It sounds like you're codependent. But most people, when they think codependent, they think I'm dependent on somebody. But usually a codependent person is probably one of the hardest working people you'll ever see. They can carry a load because they heal quick until they run down. They heal quick. But what my regular teaching would say that's codependent. I would tell the person, I would say, oh, I get it. Do you sort of feel anxious or feel like you're hurting somebody if you have to tell them no? They may say yes. I said, well, that would be described as codependence. But in the spiritual community, we would call that, I said, in the spiritual community, they would call that being an empath. And some people go, bing, but some people don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
But they know what they're doing. So they go along with the therapy. But there have been occasions when I've counseled people from the spiritual community. And then to me, the counseling is really effective for them because they have that intuitive ability too.
Yes.
And they know where I'm coming from, because a codependent, not a codependent, but an empath fantasy is that I don't feel anything, but that can be your superpower. It can be your superpower. It's like you walk in a room and you're starting to feel things, or you're happy, and then somebody come and sit next to you, or you go into a group and you're feeling anxious and you're feeling angry. You should start looking around and say, okay, who am I feeling? Not what am I feeling? Who am I feeling?
Who am I feeling? I love that.
And then when you start to get control of your emotions, the one thing I would say to a person who is an empath is learn to sit with emotions and let them pass, because you're going to realize when it's your emotion and when it's not.
Right. And I think too, that's what is so important about meditation is that when you're meditating, especially sitting in the power, you're learning to understand your own personal energy, your own aura, and
Yes.
you build this relationship with yourself
Yes.
and your energy. And
Yes.
then it makes it easier when you're out and you're around others, you begin to identify, that's not me. That's not
Right.
mine.
Exactly. You're so right, Sonia. I've meditated for years, but it
Mhm.
quietens me down, and I start to know what feelings are mine and what feelings belong to somebody else. Or
Mhm.
have you ever been out, or you thought something harsh about somebody, and you thought to yourself, that was mean. I don't think like that.
Mhm.
You may have been picking up something psychically. And that's what
Mm.
makes people go back and forth about what's wrong with me. Usually it's most of the time it's nothing. I would have to tell a lot of the people, explain it to them like, oh, you seem to be very sensitive. You seem to have a lot of compassion for people,
Mhm.
because those are the words that we know. But when you tell, and I can even say to some people who don't realize that they're an empath that I'll just say something like, sometimes we pick up on other people's energy and it's not
Mhm.
ours. And we need to realize that if we were feeling perfectly okay 5 minutes ago, and then we walk into somebody else's presence and then we're angry, maybe we're picking up on something that doesn't belong to us.
Right.
And
Yeah.
most people get it.
Good point.
Yeah.
I do have a couple questions here from chat that I want to get to, but I want to ask you,
Mhm.
is there anything that you do for yourself? What is your own self-care with having to deal with so many different personalities on a daily basis? So what do you do for your self-care?
This, I do a lot of walking.
Hmm.
I meditate. I'll exercise. There's nothing strenuous. Usually, if that's something that therapists have asked people to do for years, just walk.
Hmm.
What walking does is it helps you process any thoughts that you have. It can also help your mind get clear. Now, for me, I've walked with people before, but when I'm walking with someone, I feel like I'm entertaining. When I'm walking alone, I feel like I'm energized.
Mm.
And so the walking is what they call bilateral stimulation, because it's like you're going from one side of the brain to the other. It's almost like if you've ever when well, you know how young people are and they get upset and they say, "Put me out, I'm walking." Or somebody says, "I'm upset," and they
Not my
just go,
child. She's like, walk where?
and they go for a walk. It works. It
It does.
actually calms you down,
Yeah.
because it slows your thinking, and it will usually help you solve a problem.
Yeah. No, that's in fact, yesterday, I've been just leading up to this full moon. I've just been in a real funky, not a great place. And a lot of it is because I was just so worn out from an event that I had to do on Sunday. So I identified where, like, because I was like you said, it was like, okay, what is this? Because it
Mhm.
doesn't feel quite right. And I had to really sit with it to figure out what was going on. And I knew most of it was because I was tired and it was making me feel a certain way. And yesterday I was just in a mood. And I said, okay, I had a doctor's appointment and it worked out perfectly that it's not too far. It's about a mile there and back. And I walked. And so by the time I got there, yeah, I was a little sweaty. I'm like, oh, okay, the doctor's lucky. It's to deal with a sweaty person. But no, but when I walked back, it was just this ease and this release. And when
Mhm.
I got home, I felt better. I didn't feel like, ooh, I'm cured. I feel great, but I felt better. It took me out of that space enough where I
Yes,
could think clearly.
exactly.
And that is so important, especially when we're feeling a certain kind of way.
Yes,
Yeah.
it really helps. It- Let me say this too. Let me
Hmm.
say this. Another trait of an empath is they hate to be lied to. They are human lie detectors. And they hate to be lied to. They get all bent out of shape. The one thing that keeps me grounded with people not being honest is a line from one of Lauryn Hill's songs. She said, "People lie to God every day. Why wouldn't they lie to you?" And so I'm like, okay, I get that.
Right.
And a lot of times people who are empaths and very intuitive, they ruin movies for people. They don't want to, but they'll yell out the ending. And they don't want to do it, but it's like, I know it's about to happen. And they just blurt it out. And that's what it feels like when a person has some type of negative energy towards you. You feel like you have to do something. But when you start to harness your emotion, you can just watch it.
Wow. So true. So true. So Constance has a question for you. She says I have a daughter that battled with prescription medication, is now diagnosed with being bipolar. What can I do as a mom to help without being emotionally attached?
Well, that's a really good question. And I worked in the addiction field. And a lot of people who have like mood disorders, they will self-medicate. And I'm guessing, she said prescription drugs. I'm guessing it's going to be something like painkillers.
Let me read this too. She says, I feel I may be too hard on her, but I have to set boundaries because of the past things she's done. She's in rehabilitation, outpatient. Sometimes I don't trust that. She attends her therapy.
Yeah.
I don't trust that she doesn't trust that she attends her therapy. Pain medicine. Yes, she's taking pain medicine.
Yeah, pain medicine is usually because most people who, and this is where the intuition comes in, most people who use pain medicine, they have emotional pain. And if they can resolve that emotional pain, they will start to get better. That's any of us. And one thing that I do know is sometimes we'll be in this lifetime and we'll have emotional pain. And we think that, you were mean to me, you need to apologize, you hurt me, or whatever. There's so many things that can happen to us. So we think that if a person apologizes, that will change things. It won't. We have to deal with everything that comes our way. It's said that when we were souls on the other side, we decided we would come in physical form and play a game. And the game was, we would see how many experiences we could have and see who could still love. So basically, it's going to be therapy. A lot of people hold on to the past, but you have people who say, if they never even apologize, and then you have people who say, there's nothing they can say now. But you don't need other people to heal. You really don't. You can decide to heal. You can decide to not be insulted by anything that anyone says. Because it's almost like you're standing there and you're looking at a flowing river, a rapidly flowing river, and you're just seeing it. You're not going to get bent out of shape. Now, if you're standing in the river, you'll get bent out of shape.
Right.
And most of the time we're in the river. But I would say set the boundaries as long as you are not getting out of who you are, because some people will push us to be angry with them because that's how they know how to operate in the world. You can refuse not to be angry, but you can also set boundaries and say, no, this is what I expect from you, and this is what you really need to do. Yeah. That's what I would say. And I would also say we all need therapy. Get some help for yourself.
We all do. Yes.
We all do.
Yes. Joji says my sister was bipolar with AODA issues. She did her best when she did things she loved, like art, painting, crafting, gardening. The busier she was doing what she loved, the healthier she stayed. And to me, that sounds like, and Isaac, correct me if I'm wrong, because she's that was healing her emotional pain. Like that felt, those are things that feel good. So it's like feeding your soul, feeding that pain, that part of you that hurts with something that feels good.
Yeah, creative. And you know what I would say to that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I worked with a guy one time. He says that we should be human beings and not human doings. Sometimes, doing art, running, exercising, that's great when you start to heal. But when you can get into that part where you can be okay not doing anything, being anxious is something like being at home, getting ready to sit down, made yourself a sandwich, get ready to eat, and you look over at the trash and say, oh, I need to take out the trash, and then I can be comfortable eating. And things like that, it's almost like things have to be in place. And sometimes you have to just say, okay, I know the trash needs to go out. I'll do it later. You almost have to talk to yourself the way you would talk to anybody else, because the way we talk to ourselves sometimes, we would get in a fight with other people if we talk to them the way we talk to ourselves.
Right.
And
that's so true.
We need to respect ourselves as much as we would respect anybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Arlene said that she had emotional pain for years, took medication. And as soon as I left my husband, changed my diet, I got off my meds.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Good for you, Arlene. That's
yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Constance, we're surrounding you and your daughter in light as well.
Yes.
I know it's tough. It's tough being any parent, right? There's just a lot sometimes, because you not only are you trying to deal with your own mental health, and now you have this other person that you're trying to work with as well. And but we got to take care of ourselves first, because we're not going to be any good to anybody.
Right. That you're exactly right. That's what I was about to say to Constance. Take care of yourself. Do your own exercise. Be the example. Because if you don't, if usually what we say to ourselves is, we say to ourselves, I'm going to get them okay, and then I'll take care of me. You take care of yourself. It's like you said, Sonia. It's like getting on the airplane. And they say when the oxygen mask drop, secure it on yourself first, and then help people who can't help themselves.
I just wanted to say something about this, and I do not doubt at all that it's hard and it's difficult, but I want you to start looking at it differently. Because the more you say it's hard and it's difficult, and this happens and that happens, what we do, and a lot of us do it, you're feeding that story. That's where you're giving your energy to. So I want you to start looking at it now, Constance, from a perspective of, I'm going to take care of myself so I can be the best version of me to help her. And really looking at her, seeing her getting better, seeing her making the right choices for herself, right? Because ultimately it has to be her choice to want to get better. So feeding that energy to her. And I always like to say, instead of saying things are hard, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but all challenges can be overcome. When we say it's hard, we kind of give up, and it feels like we feel defeated. To me, that energy feels defeated. So, you're going to get through this, girl. You got it. You got it. And I know it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was a couple other things that I had saw up here. Aiden said, being forced to take social anxiety medicine. Are you talking about for yourself, Aiden, or just as society as a whole? A lot of people are being forced to take social anxiety medicine. Now that's become a thing, Isaac. And I see that with a lot of younger people. And I think that COVID brought that on for a
Yeah,
lot of people.
yes, a lot of anxiety after COVID, but I don't have anything against anti-anxiety medicine. Now, some anti-anxiety medicines are addictive, and
Mm.
you may have to ask your pharmacist. But sometimes people need that along with therapy so that they can learn to do things that most people already have learned to do. Uh, there's nothing wrong with taking medication if you need it. I used to think, have you ever heard people say that nobody's perfect?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to think that that was character. But then I started thinking, if I had to put together a body, or even if I had to put together an automobile, would I connect everything properly so that it worked well? And we all have something going on with us. And I think the point is, if we work on what's going on with us, our lives get better. If
Mm-hmm.
if we don't, we just struggle. We just go around in the same circle because everybody can heal. We just have to make up our mind that that's what we want. We are creatures of habit. We get stuck in habits. We
Oh, yeah.
try to help other people. If you have, this is one thing that I would suggest to anybody, empath or not. If your helping is not helping, you need to step back and let that person do their own.
Yeah, Aiden says his parents are actually making him take social anxiety medicine, and he's been in therapy since kindergarten. Stopped going when my mom made me see her therapist for a few years.
Okay. You know one thing, this is what I would say to you. Some, and that's what I was saying. Nobody's perfect. Some of us have natural anxiety, but there are things that you can do for the anxiety. You know what? I don't think anybody should be in therapy for years. I worked in treatment facilities, so I
Mm-hmm.
would have like 30, 60, or 90 days to work with. So what I would do is I would give them things that they could have success with because
Mm-hmm.
we're all doing the work ourselves
Right.
and not feel like I had to go to the therapist to feel better. There are things like if you're anxious, it is a thunderstorm going on here. It's almost like I can
Is
hardly.
that, yeah, I saw your you got a little pixely a little bit there.
Yeah,
So okay, that's what's going on.
I'm in the attic and I have a metal roof and
Oh,
I can just hear the rain. Oh,
do we need you to relocate so you're safe?
it's good. It's good. Hey, this is normal.
Okay.
But what I would say to Aiden is that you don't look at it. If you look back at it, you look back at it and say, "What did I learn from this?" Because everything is a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I want to go? Because a lot of your anxiety may be your spirituality, because anxiety will
Yep.
inform you of what's going on. So it's like
Absolutely.
you're thinking that it's coming from you, but the anxiety may be saying that I want you to pay attention to this. Deep breaths, progressive muscle relaxation. There's all sort of things that you can do. Everybody does a different thing that helps them to calm down. But that's what I would say to you. I wouldn't look at it as a chore. I would look at it as what have I learned from it, and what can I? And I would ask the therapist a lot of questions, like what can I do to be better? What can I do to get better?
Yeah.
What would that look like?
I love this. I can relate to this here. Sun and Vision says, I've been going through deep healing of grief and sorrow and releasing because I don't want the story anymore. My soul wants to move on. We heal all when we heal ourselves. And
Yeah.
that is so true.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got my divorce, it was really sad. It was kind of surprising. Well, actually, let me start. It was more the separation first. And so when we separated, it was kind of out of the blue and took me by surprise. And I was really upset. And I remember one of my mentors sharing with her, I'm crying and I'm upset and I'm sharing with her. And she said to me, it's good to be in your grief and your sorrow, but I don't want you to be the victim.
Yeah.
Don't turn yourself into the victim.
Yes.
And that it stung, right? Because I was like, oh, I'm not being a victim, but then when I really listened to that, I said, okay. And then as I began to process and do things, I kept saying to myself, I'm not going to be a part of this story, right? This sad story of, the separation. And now, unfortunately, as many kids, our daughter felt a certain way about it. It was just like all this sadness here. And I said, I'm going to be above the story.
Yes.
And that's how I started getting through things. And that saying, fake it till you make it. Because some days I felt like I was faking it. But yet it helped me get through it. And then I became part of this new story that I created for myself, which I loved. So it's about that one foot in front of the other, right? One step at a time.
But isn't that what we say? We're manifesting who we want to be.
Yeah.
Because Sonia, when you said the victim, there was this feeling that I would get if I felt like somebody had slighted me or something that they had were sarcastic or something. I would feel this victim type of feeling, and that was one of my affirmations for years. I am not a victim. I wrote it on a card and I put it on my sun visor. And sometimes I fold it down at just the right time. But it was like over the years, I just realized that, oh, this is what I feel when, and you have to know yourself more than you know other people. This is how I feel when somebody says something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started saying I'm not a victim, it was empowering, just like you said.
Yes. And that's been so coming up for me, Sonia. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Love you. Love you too, sister. Yes, beautiful. Yeah, it's about us taking back our power and standing in our power.
Yeah. Let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all were talking about the story. Society has already created the story.
Right.
We buy into it. Now, there may be a person who has a problem with they may think, okay, my mother or my father is not that caring toward me. But if you could break it down to the least common denominator, what is a father? Father to child. A father, it doesn't necessarily mean that person is going to take care of the household and do whatever, even a mother. We attach stories to those things.
Mm-hmm.
If we can step back and say, I allow this person to be who they are. Zukov says that people and situations do not cause us stress. Our resistance to those people or situations causes us stress. So if you got a mother who's not caring, doesn't seem to be caring or loving, if you don't resist it, you can take care of yourself. And usually, Spirit will put somebody in your life who will do that. They'll be there. The problem is we can't see them because we're looking for it to come from somebody else.
There it is right there. Yeah. Yep. So true.
Accept kindness from where it comes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I wanted to look at this comment too, because I thought this was really interesting. Tracy had said, I have often wondered how much weight I have put on the years carrying others' energies, and on my part, not doing my clearing. And I feel like there's something to that, when we kind of take on all this stuff, right? Because again, it's that emotional aspect. And then if you're tied to food, that emotional eater part, it's like, that's what you're doing to feed, to feel that part that's hurting.
Mm-hmm. Let me say this too. And, I said I've worked with a lot of therapists. And what I usually do is when I first start working with, I'd say you're going to have a lot of people come to you, and they're going to sit in front of you, and they're going to tell you a lot of things. And you think that you're coming here to heal them. They're coming to help you heal. And they can't understand that because they think that they take on all of this and they want to stop these people from hurting. But if they would keep their emotional boundary, they could help that person a lot better. Because if you're crying and I'm crying and you're crying and I'm crying, there's no work getting done.
Right.
I believe a therapist or an empath can walk in the dark places with people and help them find their way out. That's what I believe. Because think about it, it's like you've seen it before. It's not like you're doing this for the first time, every time.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens with us as empaths, and I think a lot of counselors are empaths, some of them don't really know it. What happens is we think, okay, I've dealt with this person who has, and I'll go to some of the worst things: physical abuse, sexual abuse. And I feel this heavy feeling in my chest, and I just want to help them so much, and I have so much compassion. But say for instance, I've done this for I'm going to say 3 years, year and a half. All of a sudden I hear the story and I don't get that same feeling. So I start to think, what's wrong with me? Am I not caring? Am I not compassionate? Well, actually, I've heard it before. So I should be able to, with compassion, move that person along. What a lot of us do is we tell ourselves, I must not be a good person because I don't feel anything. If you practice something for so long, you just see it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like standing out there practicing free throws. Once you don't say, "Oh, I'm glad I made that one."
Right.
It's like you expect to make it. So you should be expecting that your feelings are going to change. They're going to change over time.
Yeah. No, very true. Joe G has a question.
Okay.
She would like for you to discuss more about codependency.
Okay. Now, codependency, Joe G, is, to me, that's just it's probably the same thing as an empath. A lot of the terms and a lot of the techniques that I've been taught that other therapists use, that a lot of therapists use, they come from the spiritual community. We talk about grounding, but these are things that come from the spiritual community. A codependent person, it may be a person who they can't say no. They are the martyr. They suffer a lot. They're controlling because they're controlling because it would almost be like, Sonia, I'm trying to keep you from having a problem so that I don't feel it. That's what it is.
Okay.
And it's not about being mean, because usually codependent people are not mean. They can get on you and they can just, they stick with you like glue, and they want to know everything that you're doing because they're trying to control the situation so that they can feel better. Codependent people will buy things for other people that they won't buy for themselves. I'll tell you a little story. I go shopping one day with a friend of mine, Claudia, and I collect frogs. And we're in the store, and there was this table in an aisle, and I'm like looking at the frog. It was like one of those garden statues with the see nothing, 3 frogs, see nothing, hear nothing, say nothing. It was like a game. And I'm looking at it, and Claudia said, "Do you like that?" I was like, "Yeah, I like that." And she said, "Get it." And I'm like, "No, I don't need it." She said, "You like it, get it." I said, "No." So we walk away, get a little ways down the aisle. Claudia says, "Are you going to get that frog?" I was like, "Nah, I don't need it." And she said, "Good, I want it." And she said, would you buy it for me? And I'm like,
Oh.
yeah. So we go to the register, I pay for the frog. And you know, this is what an empath will do. And I'm like, in a daze, we get in my vehicle, and I think I had probably let it go. I was like, this is weird. You know, why would I do this? And I'm backing out. Claudia looks at me and she says, got you something? But, you know, as she told me, Isaac, you were willing to buy something for me that you were not willing to buy for yourself.
Yeah.
I think I would have argued with her. And I would have justified, I would have rationalized. But you have to learn to treat yourself as you would treat anybody else. And I got a little trick for that. If you want to know how to grow yourself up, you get your child, just hold them in your mind, or somebody you care a great deal about. It could be a parent. And if somebody is not treating you kindly, you ask yourself, if I know you got a daughter, Sonia. My daughter were in this situation, how would I want her to be treated? What would I want her to do? Do you think you would pick something for her to do that was growth producing, something that was respectful toward her?
Yep.
Yeah. That's what we should do for ourselves. Now, when you start practicing that, you'll realize that I wouldn't let anybody talk to my daughter like this.
Right.
And you may not say it in that moment, because sometimes if you can remember it later and say, the next time that something like this happens, I will speak up for myself. That's how you can begin to train yourself to be different, to do something different. You have to have a surrogate, because we feel like we can take anything. You put a surrogate in your place, somebody you really care about.
Right. What are some of the other techniques? Like, what are some of the techniques that you use with your patients?
Oh, I may do some. Now, one thing that I think that I really like and I've used a lot is, like, because being a caring person, being an emotional person, feeling all of these emotions, we sometimes have trouble making decisions. Like, okay, should I do this or should I do that? And it's probably pretty much a spiritual practice. Let's say, should I go? Well, I'll use myself as an example. I had the opportunity to go to a conference, but I'd have to get on a plane. And I did not want to let the group down. But I'm looking at all these people in the airport. They're not looking happy. And the people are, the COVID is kicking up. And I'm like, I don't want to just wear a mask and just be dodging people. So what you do in your imagination, you ask yourself, which one feels best? Because it'll go through your mind just like that. Getting on this plane, going to the airport, getting on this plane, sitting there with my mask on. You feel it in your body. And when you feel it in your body, whichever one feels best, that's the one you go with. Because if you do it and you feel anxious, that's the way you're going to feel when you're in the situation.
I love the similarities, because that process is actually called Which Thought Feels Better. It's an Abraham Hicks process. And it's called Which Thought Feels Better. So you listen to something that you say, maybe it's something that you say often, and you're like, does that feel good? Or what would make me feel better? Which thought would feel better? So it allows you to transition to use a different thought that feels better, because that is what, again, you're feeding your body, you're feeding your mind, everything. So you want to align with that thought that feels better.
Right. because that's the way you're going to feel when you're in it. The way I remember that, I'm a big Tina Marie fan. Now, she doesn't mean this, but Tina Marie said in one of her songs, I can't even remember the song, she said, my mind sometimes play tricks on me, but my body never lies. So I go with what I'm feeling in my body.
That reminds me of another thing when you were talking about making a decision, when people would, and this is a fun exercise. So you have two pieces of paper, and let's say, like you're saying, like, should I go on this trip? One piece of paper says yes, one says no. Mix them up, put them down on the floor, and stand between them and see which way your body leans to. And because it helps you to get out of your mind, and you're leaning towards what feels really right for your body. So there's like all different things, because the body knows. The body knows.
Right.
Now, sometimes some of us have a little, we have some holes. It's like I used to say, I look at it as a ship. I was given this analogy, right? We have the ship, we have the captain. Either sometimes the captain's on board, but all the shipmates are running amok and doing all kinds of things, or it's vice versa. So this is one of those times when you have everybody on board and they're ready to work with you.
Right.
Yes. Anybody have any last minute? We're coming up on the hour here. Isaac, I'm gonna have to have you back. That's what's going to happen here, because, I mean, goodness, we can go on for another hour to talk about this, quite honestly. There's so much, especially when it comes to mental health. And I mean, heck, maybe we might just need to have a conversation on mental health and how it's affected the world that we live in right now.
Yes.
I think that would be really helpful. But any last minute questions? I can take one more question if someone has a question. Hey, Sharon. And I've been typing, trying to get everyone as you are all coming in saying hello. So if I miss someone, I'm so sorry, but thank you everybody for being here. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Isaac, do you have any last words or anything that you want to share or say?
What I would say is, I just want to encourage everybody to take care of themselves the best that they can. Because the way I would say that, like I said, use a surrogate. If you've never been able to be assertive or say no or speak up, use somebody that you really care about, because that's going to give you the feelings that you need to have so that you can move forward. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about just living the best life that you possibly can, and not judging yourself. Don't judge yourself.
Oh, it's beautiful, right? Because, guys, this is all we got right here. So we want to treat it well. We want to treat it right.
Yeah.
Treat yourself with kindness, love, and tenderness. Kindness, love, and tenderness. So, thank you, Isaac, and thank you for the work that you do, because it is needed, and we appreciate you. We really do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. I will be on again this Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. for Coffee Chat, Oracle readings for the collective. And I'm also doing a pop-up on Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. I have Kevin Lewis, the healing medium. We're going to do some readings for you guys. So super excited about that. Oh, yes, Constance, please do. Take care of yourself.
Yes.
Take care. Yeah. All right. Big hugs, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.